for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu, and I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's out to Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your penny line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Grand Rising and good morning to everybody out there. Happy Thursday/Friday Eve. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and we have a really amazing packed show for y'all today. You guys know we do this as a team. I got to bring in my co-host with the most, Big O. What up, Big O?
All right. Good morning, Trey Holiday. It looks like we got some breaking news coming out right now. The Attorney General of the state of Washington is announcing charges against 3 Tacoma officers in custody on the death of Manuel Ellis, including 2 in the second degree murder and 1 manslaughter. We're going to continue to cover this throughout the show as info comes in. Good morning. Want to welcome you to the Morning Update Show. Remind you right now is the perfect time to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream here with people who you feel will benefit from culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Big shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald, as well as KBCS 91.3 out of Bellevue College. Also want to remind people that you can catch the Morning Update Show on podcast just a few hours after we come off air, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Yeah, so this info is coming out right now. I'm actually looking at Hannah Scott's Twitter from Cairo FM. Breaking: Attorney General announces charges against 3 Tacoma officers in custody, death of Manny Ellis, including 2 second-degree murder and 1 manslaughter. I'm sure it's a lot more information that's going to be coming out about this.
Absolutely. And you know, honestly, as we've been following this case, it's important that, you know, that we stay connected to all of the breaking information that comes out in breaking news, you know, but this is really, to be honest, and you guys have heard me say, when it gets right, a step in the right direction, because honestly, people and officers in particular need to be held accountable for the deaths that happen on their watch, especially when there's evidence and real facts around abuse of force. And so honestly, you know, I know Manny Ellis's family has been, you know, seeking justice in this case for a long time, and we've been covering that as it you know, as it goes down. So I'm sure there'll be more for us to follow up with.
Yeah, and we'll be we could expect a lot more news coming out of Tacoma today as different civic leaders, community leaders, and family members discuss the Attorney General's findings right here and how it's going to move forward. So today, man, we got a really great show here today. We got Buki Gates from Baseball Beyond Borders. A lot of you guys saw the video from a few weeks ago when we took over Safeco Field. So it felt like a kid in a candy store. Buki's here. He's going to talk more about Baseball Beyond Borders and what's going on in the next few months. And we've got Councilmember Girmay Zahilay, right? Councilmember Girmay Zahilay. I'm talking a few things with him. Is gun violence disruption. We're also going to be talking about this budget, $631 million over there. The county's sitting on COVID relief. And we're going to be talking to him about what's going on in Skyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Lots of stuff to dig in with him about. Absolutely.
Right. And so since we got 2 interviews here today and lots of information, lots of people to lots of things to go through. We just have headlines. We don't have too many handcrafted motion graphics. But a few things wanted to point out. We've been staying on top of this vaccine. Remember that the vaccine sites the city has, they're going to close like the second week of June, and the city's going to move to pop-ups. This is a good time now. If you're looking for vaccinations, the city vaccination sites, you can go and follow that. ARPA, the mayor has a press conference at 12:30 today. So we're going to figure out where this money is going for this Recovery Act. It's millions and millions and millions of dollars. If the mayor's presser is live, I know that at the Filipino Community Center, if it's live, then we'll carry that here live on Converge as well, so we can see where that money is going. You seem like you got something to say.
Oh my God. There's so much to say.
You're
when
looking
you talk
at me
about,
like, stop talking. I got something to say.
I mean, those American Relief Plan Act dollars are really about, you know, COVID relief, and we talk about it so much. Let's look at the communities that have been the most impacted by COVID. And, you know, it would be remiss of me to say that there is a heavy push coming from several community groups to say, look, there needs to be a direct investment into Black community, Black-led solutions when we talk about it. So it's just a constant message, to be honest. I wasn't trying to give you the glare.
Well, you definitely did. And so the mayor is going to make this announcement at 12:30 where this ARPA money is going and where and to who and to how. So it'll be interesting. We'll continue to follow the money, kind of like we were doing last night. We had Director Mantilla of Department of Neighborhoods, and we also had Director Lockhart of Office of Civil Rights. Good discussion with them last night.
Yeah, good discussion with them.
We'll see what's going to happen with this $30 million. You know what I'm trying to say.
Participatory
PB.
Participatory budget.
Also, Black Lives Matter, Seattle, King County, they've got their day in court. They're in court today at 2 p.m. Man, it's looking messy over there, and I don't really do all the deep dive on the court documents, especially when they're like 60 or 100 pages. But it looks like current board members of Black Lives Matter, Seattle, King County, are suing past board members and also current board members. Looks like it was an ongoing thing that they tried to keep in house for several months, and apparently internal communication there is broken down. They're going in front of a judge today looking for relief and an injunction because apparently some former board members might have access to digital platforms that haven't been determined. It's crazy. I mean, I got somebody who could do all the analysis or whatever, but this, you know, it's just we'll see. I think there's really outside of the fact that they're in court, there is no news until 2 p.m. until they get out of court, because that's really what it is. But they're going to the court to basically get an injunction. One group of Black Lives Matter Seattle King County board members are getting an injunction against former members and a current member to basically release information and access to digital platforms and some of everything else. So it's gotten to the court level now. So
yeah, we'll see how that plays out. And the thing of it is that so many that support Black Lives Matter in general throughout this nation, you know, we talked to and got a snippet of some of the national leaders of Black Lives Matter, you know, and realized that there's a lot of chapters that popped up that are not necessarily connected. There's a lot there that makes it kind of hard for people to follow. So you're right. Oh, we'll see how, you know, it plays out in court.
People have consistently heard me say, see, that it's easy, and in Seattle, it's the same as every other city. And this is separate from what I was talking about with this court case here. But people are always like, Black Lives Matter protest. And yeah, it's like the Nike just do it thing. You know what I'm saying? But you know, to always put things in proper context, that's why you always hear me say it's protest to uplift the value of Black lives.
Yeah, because it's not the same thing. Absolutely.
Right. But because it is two different things, the organization and the actual movement. So we're supposed to catch up with these guys and I get out of court 2:00, and you know, we'll see what that's a very heavy name. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking about Black Lives Matter, Seattle King County, that's a heavy name. And you know, anything, just be real, with a name that big, anything negative impacts other Black organizations that are out there as far as the general public perception. So we'll see what's going on with that. And it looks like we're right on time here. I had some stuff to say about Chief Diaz, his decision yesterday. I think we'll move that to tomorrow, or we'll move that to Monday. Probably Monday. Monday, by the way, and we'll make mention of this again, all next week, Converge Media returns to the Hill. We're broadcasting live from Cal Anderson Park all next week from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Maybe we'll go long, maybe 12:30 up there on the Hill. So you'll catch us live there. We're doing public comment every day. So it's not just the city council. They can do public comment here on Converge Media all next week. You guys come join us up there on Capitol Hill. We want to hear what you, the public, has to say. So all next week, you up for that, Trey?
Absolutely. Let's do it. You know, this is just a return to the Hill. Absolutely.
That's why I say Converge.
Old stomping grounds.
Converge Media returns to the Hill. Monday might be a good day to follow up further as far as, you know, Chief Diaz's decision. Demoted a command officer, down to captain. Well, it was already a captain. And, you know, the going up to the command staff is kind of up to the chief. So it's Captain Herjack now. He's now a captain. Apparently, he's the one the higher up who gave this order and some everything else. I was so overwhelmed yesterday. There was so many media and everything else. I haven't had a chance to dive into it. So we'll dive into it and we'll kick that discussion down the road to tomorrow or Monday.
Right on.
Very agreeable today, Trey Holiday.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's Friday Eve. You know what I'm saying? Got to slide into the weekend right.
Friday Eve. All right. So we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we got Buki Gates talking all about baseball beyond borders. And then after Buki, you're popping in with Councilmember Zahilay. We got a great show lined up for you today. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Joined now by my good friend, man. I've been knowing you literally like your whole life.
It's been a long time, man. It's good to be here.
Yep. But if we can get on the wide over there, my good friend Buki Gates. There he is. Now he's on the screen. What's up, man?
How you doing, man? I'm good. Good to be here, man. Let's talk baseball. That's what we're here for.
Man, you know, it's fortunate. Proof was here. Proof in the Play was here the other day. Right after the M's getting spanked down there in San Diego. It wasn't a pretty conversation.
Yeah, San Diego's a different breed of baseball right now.
Apparently it is. But we're talking youth baseball here, and Baseball Beyond Borders. Why don't you tell everybody here quickly, what is Baseball Beyond Borders all about?
So Baseball Beyond Borders is a sports-based youth development organization really trying to push the narrative around getting more Black kids accessing baseball and softball. And it's really about how do we connect student athletes' passions to their academic future. It's a sport that we know that we only owned at one point, right? And so now we're really trying to continue to build on the cultural legacy of baseball in the community to expose more kids to access a sport outside of football, basketball, or even the emerging sports of lacrosse and soccer.
All right, good stuff. We're gonna have to add a few minutes to this segment here because you touched on something real important and you kind of moved through it quickly. You could tell our viewing audience, what do you mean when you say baseball was the only sport that we owned?
So when I say baseball was the only sport that we own, right, we're talking about the Negro Leagues. Back in the 1920s, Negro Leagues formed, and that was the only thing we had access to, right? That was the way we were able to expose our Black families and communities to baseball because integration was not there. And at that point, we're talking about an ecosystem that was built and developed around the sport of baseball that included concessionaires. We're talking about we owned fields, we owned facilities, we owned everything that went centered around the sport of baseball. At the time in which Jackie Robinson integrated, and let me make sure I make this right. Jackie Robinson integrated baseball in 1947, right? However, there was somebody that tried to integrate it back in 1880s, and that was Moses Fleetwood Walker. But at that time, 60 years prior, they weren't ready, right? America was not ready to integrate baseball at that point. So it took another 60 years, and obviously we're still 60, 70 years past Jackie Robinson, still trying to find ways to further enhance baseball for Black communities.
See, this is the thing, is like our audience likes to learn, right? And so that's why I had to stop you right there so we could, you know what I'm saying, drop some nuggets here on the audience. And what you said was real. It's the whole ecosystem around baseball. Even black-owned buses, black-owned bus drivers had to be on that green book. So you was going to black-owned gas stations when you were on the road. You know, the black-owned ticket takers, the uniform makers, the textiles. It was a whole ecosystem around baseball.
That's right. And the work that Baseball Beyond Borders is looking to do is not necessarily looking to say, hey, let's get all these athletes together and go get on a field and play. As we talk about this ecosystem, right, why aren't we sitting there and having concessionaires inside of T-Mobile Park? Why aren't we really building platforms that allow groundskeepers and others that really make up the sport of baseball? And I'll say the business of baseball is something that we're also pushing, right? So Baseball Beyond Borders, yes, the end goal, the dream is for a student athlete to make it to the Major League Baseball or to play for the Seattle Mariners. However, we have more of an aspiration to see more CEOs, to see more nonprofit leaders, to see more community organizers in community giving back and doing exactly what we have done to really build a platform and create an opportunity for our communities to thrive.
All right, so I had an opportunity, thanks to you and to the Seattle Mariners, to go over there to the ballpark, and fortunate enough to have Jake Graff brought with me and Curtis Delgado, who's out there, and Ibrahim Omar, Steve Hickey. And man, we had the ballpark all to ourselves, and we were able to shoot some segments for upcoming special for Baseball Beyond Borders. We'll take a look at that. It's not every day that you get the ballpark all to yourself, but that's exactly what happened last week when the Seattle Mariners turned over the keys to Converge Media, and we shot some segments for the upcoming special highlighting the work of Baseball Beyond Borders. I won't lie, I felt like a kid in a candy store, and it was an amazing experience being able to uplift Baseball Beyond Borders' work to bring more young Black boys and girls into baseball and softball. Be on the lookout for the special soon, and to all the young people out there in our community, try baseball. Today is officially a good day. Buki, it was a good day for us over there.
It was a great day. And I want to make sure that the community is prepared for this special that's coming on. We're still working out logistics on the date. However, we will be pushing it out. Thanks to Converge Media for producing this segment. It's going to be important that we continue to elevate the story, right? And part of what we call the story is elevating our promise. How do we increase diversity and inclusion within the sport of baseball to see Black and Indigenous families have access?
And a lot of times when people think baseball and they think Seattle, they might not be thinking what Black people's playing baseball. And actually, we're talking to Stephanie Johnson-Tolliver from the Black Heritage Society of the State of Washington in a few days. She got an archive all the way back. Black people have been out here playing baseball for a long time. But we went digging in the crates and we got some more because seeing is believing. We want our audience to see some of these things. You put up some of these old school photos here. Buki can tell us about them.
So this we have, you can see a little kid right there. That's myself, but that was my father's team called the Padres. There's the Orioles. I'm there. Again, you just see just Black players playing baseball. That team right here, this Padres team, Ro Bland, you got Romel Williams. I think there was Dean Davis, Roland Davis. That team actually, I believe, went undefeated. And my dad was the coach. So obviously there's a lineage that I'm really looking to carry on the backs of what he was able to do in community. But that team, I believe, swung wood bats the entire time. The only team that would hit with wood bats at 13 and actually went as far as the state tournament, but didn't get past there. But they were still dominant.
Look at you. The best thing is, Buki, is when you come on here, and we've talked to you about a few different community issues. One, gun violence disruption. And, it's real serious work. And it's good to see you come on here and talk about something you're so passionate about. You're just so beaming about. You're so happy about.
Man, I love baseball, man. I'm a lover of all things baseball. And if it's, this is my third space, right? Despite what may be going on in community, if I'm out on the baseball field and I'm able to impact a kid or multiple kids and even impacting coaches, right? That's where my passion lies. And I want to make sure that more families, more community have access to seeing baseball and softball thrive here in the state of Washington.
All right. So 2 things before I let you go. One, when are we going to see the M's?
You tell me. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go see him. Kyle Lewis, man, that's my guy. I love him, man. He can play flat out. He is going to be here for a while. All
right. Well, you see the stadium is only like 4 blocks from here. So I'm going to be calling you. The second thing is, how can people keep up with Baseball Beyond Borders?
They can follow us on social media at BBB Inner City, or you can follow us on our website, baseballbeyond.org. That's one way. And continue to reach out. Hit us up. Come visit us at a ballpark. We'll be playing this weekend, our 12-year-old team in the Art Wright Memorial Tournament. So it's just an ability to just come, show up, be present, and encourage these kids to continue to fight the good fight.
All right, Buki Gates, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to take a quick ZYD break, and when we come back, we have Councilmember Zahilay. You're watching Morning Update Show.
Public Health, Seattle, King County, Zero Youth Detention, along with our partners from across the South King County region, are committed to reducing violence and creating the conditions needed for our neighborhoods to be safe and free of crime. Too often, the response to crime and violence has been a piecemeal approach with a program here and a program there. When family units collapse, schools fail to educate, the economy fails to produce jobs, and crime rises, we've looked to law enforcement and punitive measures to save us. Nothing could be more wrong or further from the truth. Law enforcement can't shoulder all the burden or take the rest of us off the hook. We are acknowledging the lived experiences of Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. We are centering community as the experts who can effectively identify key issues related to systems, policies, and practices that impact children, families, and communities of color across this region. Those most impacted by the issues will help call out and identify the root causes, including structural and systemic factors. 150 residents will partner with King County to develop strategies, solutions, and an action plan that explicitly addresses system changes needed and eliminates barriers to access for Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks. These residents will also identify the criteria used to measure our collective success. Simply put, we need your help as we do the work needed to make King County the safest in this country. It will take specific commitments from all of us, community members, our young people, elders, and leaders from the sectors all across this region. Together, we will get this work done. Please click the link below and sign up for a work group. Or you can recommend a co-facilitator from community for each work group. We look forward to hearing your ideas, concerns, feedback, and solutions as we build a community where all our children can be happy, healthy, hopeful, safe, and thriving.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Joined right now by King County Councilmember Zahilay. How are you?
I'm doing well, Omari. How about you?
Seattle. we get through it. So we're gonna do. We got time, and this is the best thing is we always make time when elected officials, especially like yourself, come on here. So first segment here, I'm gonna talk to you about the article you wrote, gun violence, and one or two other things, and then Trayana is gonna talk to you about this budget, these big millions and millions of dollars going on over there at the county. Right there, that was zerojouthdetention.com/work groups. Always throw it out there. And the work that the public health, Seattle King County Zero Youth Detention is doing around the disruption of gun violence through this regional approach. I want to put up this article that you wrote. Here it is. Treat gun violence like COVID-19 as a public health crisis. So with this right here, Councilmember Zahilay, you wrote it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, my whole point was that the idea that gun violence is an epidemic, that it's a public health crisis is not new. So I know some people opened up the article and were like, another article about gun violence being a public health crisis. So that's not my point. My point is not to bring out new ideas. It's that now we have a template for what it looks like when our region and our state and really our whole country takes a public health crisis seriously. What do we do when we take a public health crisis seriously? And we saw that with COVID-19. We got to replicate what we did, the level of urgency, the scale of the response. That's what we need to end gun violence.
And what are some of the things that you saw that the response to COVID-19 taught us that's transferable over here to gun violence disruption?
First of all, it feels like resources come out of nowhere when we really take something serious, right? We saw when COVID-19 impacts everybody and everybody's really scared. We saw our county and our state buying up buildings and properties real quick to house people, to make sure that people don't go back to their homes and transfer and spread the virus to their family members. We could do the same thing with gun violence. We know that gun violence spreads from person to person like a virus because of the trauma, because of the way it impacts your brain, because of the social dynamics. So let's buy up properties and create optional housing for people who are at risk of shootings when they go back home, whether because they're in disputes with their neighbors or because they live with their abuser. We know that people need a safe place to live. We could do that exact same thing. And the analogy continues. You know, with COVID-19, we transformed physical spaces to prevent and slow the spread of the virus. You walk into a restaurant, there are plexiglass dividers. The amount of people who are allowed into a space are limited just for spread reasons. Well, there are organizations out there that are doing the same thing with physical spaces that are most at risk for shootings. You know, organizations like Southeast Network, Rainier Beach Action Coalition, they're going into these parking lots, into these areas that have high risk of shootings, and they're activating the spaces so that you have better lighting, better music, food. People who are trained at conflict de-escalation, they're not getting the kind of support that they need to spread their impact and make sure that more spaces are transformed to limit the risk of shootings. And, you know, we can go on and on and on, but the point is we're not responding to gun violence like the epidemic that it is, with the scale that's needed, with the urgency and the mass statewide and regional coordination. We're not coordinating like we should.
You know, I had Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin on here a few weeks ago and brought up this issue here of gun violence in our city, and talked about how, you know, we get lack of response and lack of anything, even empathy, out of a lot of elected officials. I mean, you're in a rare category where, you know, I mean, you say something, and it's really weird because a lot of elected officials, I think it's okay to recognize the trauma that's occurred, an event occurred. Is much different than talking about the details of an investigation. There's all these ordinances about if something's being investigated or however it is, but they don't even talk to the trauma of it or anything else. And what Mayor Durkin has said was that if these murders and gun violence was occurring on the north end, and these were children of different colors, the whole city would be, in this conversation, at least trying to find solutions. My question to you is, how do you get the city of Seattle population, black population, 7%? I don't know how many black people are in the county, you know what I'm saying? A negligible amount. How do you get other people, particularly white people, that's the majority, to actually care about these black kids dying in gun violence?
The reason why I wrote the article again is not because I thought I was saying something new. It's to elevate this issue and make it part of our regional conversation. Right now, we have dozens of candidates running for office. And you know what it is, the topics that get the most priority: affordable housing, density, climate action, things like that, all should be top priorities. I'm not trying to discount them, but rarely do I hear, people go on stage and the moderator asks, "What's your response to gun violence?" It needs to be that level of priority.
And I was shocked, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't say shocked, but surprised. The only person running for the office of mayor who was intentional, reaching out to us and had a plan, and some things in it might work, might not, is Justin Farrell. So, you know what I'm saying? Here's this white woman who's out here was like, hey, man, here's a plan. Here's why I think we should do this, on the street level. Here's what we should be doing in schools. Here's what we're doing in community. And, it's interesting. 17 people are running for the office of mayor. And, I've only heard one plan. So.
Yeah, Justin's on the board of community passageways, and they focus a lot on gun violence prevention. So I'm not surprised to hear that. But I mean, I hope you keep doing what you're doing, because when candidates are sitting in front of you, you always ask them about this. And I need everybody to always ask, what is your plan for protecting predominantly our Black and brown youth, who are the victims of gun violence disproportionately? So this is not an issue that just affects one person or one group of people. Keeping the analogy going with COVID-19, if one group of people are overly susceptible to this, we're all less safe. We saw what happened last year. Suddenly the violence moves up to downtown and everybody starts carrying, the media starts picking it up. It's suddenly a crisis.
It's interesting because now, it's just coming up on 1 year of Seattle protests, and for somehow, man, I could talk, you already know, but somehow people have just, as a lot of the media and other people have made it just Capitol Hill, and not keeping in mind that tens of thousands of people, look at that, I just want to live out there, all the rallies in South Seattle, over there in the Central District, 23rd and Jackson, thousands of people. But of course, their story is just up there on the hill. I think I got an overlay here from SPD from their Twitter last night. And we talk about things creeping up. It says police have flagged down at 10:38 p.m. Basically, it was a shooting over there. It was two women, taken to the hospital. What we've seen here also in the city of Seattle is, you can bring it down, is instances of gun violence are moving further north on the map, in our actual city. South Lake Union, Lake City Way, it's up to Inner Bay. And, and so of course now there's more people talking and more people talking into the conversation about it. But I wanted to acknowledge face to face. We talked about this on Friday, me and Triana, and Friday is Feel Good Friday. It's not usually a gun violence story that goes into Feel Good Friday, but you made Feel Good Friday last week because it made us feel good that you're using your platform to uplift such a very important issue to our community.
Thank you. And I'll keep doing that. And I've learned from you all. I see you all talking about the real important issues, and I'll keep doing my part too.
Right. And one other thing before we go to break, and Triana, man, I hope you're ready. Triana talking dollars and cents. She's talking dollars and cents and some of everything else here. Man, tell us what's the latest with Skyway. Every time we talk to you, you know what I'm saying? I know Skyway is something that's near and dear to you. I'm sure your whole district is, but some areas of your district need a little bit more help than others. So what's going on in Skyway?
Yeah, so for people who don't know about Skyway, Skyway is the unincorporated community just south of Seattle, between Seattle and Renton. If you were to get in your car in Rainier Beach and drive to Renton, at some point during your drive, you would look around and say, wow, the streets are suddenly not having sidewalks anymore. The buildings look like they're about 50 years older. It looks like there's no investment here. And that's not by accident. That's because you're driving through Skyway. And even though Rainier Beach is a low income neighborhood, even though parts of Renton are low income, it still feels different in Skyway. And that's because of generations of disinvestment in this neighborhood, systematic oppression, because it's unincorporated. They don't have the kind of levels of local representation that cities do. And so right when I came into office, one of my big priorities, maybe my top priority, was elevating this community. And I've been working with the people in the neighborhood who have been doing this work for a long time, and we were able to get lots of different types of investment. So this year has been not the legislative budget wins that we got last year, but actually implementing those wins. So we're working on a Skyway Community Center. We're working on affordable housing over there. We're working to expand public transportation. And at the same time, we know that the more you invest in a neighborhood, the more you risk what? Displacing people.
Exactly.
So every level of investment we make has to be met with a corresponding anti-displacement solution. So we have an anti-displacement package that we're working on right now, things like mandatory inclusionary zoning, things like just cause eviction to make sure that people who are tenants don't get kicked out for no reason, lots of different things to just make sure that that neighborhood and the people who live in it get to stick around long enough to enjoy those changes.
You know, we had comedian Rod Long on here 2 weeks ago. He said, he talked about how he used to live in Skyway. He said, I lived in Skyway, Black Beverly Hills of Seattle, overlooking the Rainier Valley.
Yeah.
You know, for so many of us, especially people who are from Seattle, and you got family kind of in the area, a lot of us have a family member, a friend, big mama in there, somebody in Skyway. I know a lot of our Black community, one way or another, Skyway were attached. And you talk about Skyway being bordered by Seattle and Renton. Who's on the other side? Is that Renton? Tukwila and Tukwila. What is it that like we can be doing, if anything, for those of us that live in Seattle, Renton, and Tukwila? We got family and friends and everything there in Skyway. How can we be supportive? You know, is it like support businesses there, write letters, bring awareness, because it's our family there?
One of the biggest structural issues that Skyway and a lot of issues that we care about face is this district mindset. And you've talked about this a lot, which is that I care about the things happening in my own district or my own city or wherever I live. But we have to have an overarching commitment to equity and to doing what's right that transcends beyond district boundaries. And so I would say everybody around King County and even around Washington State, look at places like Skyway and Skyway specifically as a blueprint or a model for how we can invest in a neighborhood without displacing the people who call it home. Because it's almost too late in a lot of places, right? I mean, it's not too late as in don't do the work, but if we look at the CD, we've lost a big part of our Black community there. If we look at South Seattle, where I grew up, you know, Columbia City is unrecognizable from what it used to be in the Columbia Plaza days, where you used to go get tall teas and haircuts. Now we have Skyway, and that economic tsunami that went through the CD in South Seattle is coming for Skyway next, but it's not too late in Skyway. We still have the highest proportion of Black people, 70% people of color, low income communities, immigrant refugee communities living in Skyway. And it shouldn't just be their King County council member or just the people who live there caring about it. I think everybody should be advocating for Skyway because it's really our opportunity to get things right.
And I love that. You know, I really love it. And you're right. I tell people there's like Seattle, especially in these districts, become a fiefdom. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's like, this is my area here. I don't care about anything in another district. Councilmember Zahilay, I'm gonna get out of this seat. We're gonna take a break, and you'll be joined by Trey Holiday, and she's talking dollars and cents. I want to thank you for your time.
Hold on, I'm a little scared. Trey's gonna come in here and ask the tough questions.
Hey, man, better you than me. But we'll do this because we want to continue to raise awareness around what's going on in gun violence disruption. So we're gonna leave you with a ZYD break. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Public Health, Seattle, King County, Zero Youth Detention, along with our partners from across the South King County region, are committed to reducing violence and creating the conditions needed for our neighborhoods to be safe and free of crime. Too often, the response to crime and violence has been a piecemeal approach with a program here and a program there. When family units collapse, schools fail to educate, the economy fails to produce jobs, and crime rises, we've looked to law enforcement and punitive measures to save us. Nothing could be more wrong or further from the truth. Law enforcement can't shoulder all the burden or take the rest of us off the hook. We are acknowledging the lived experiences of Black, brown, and indigenous communities. We are centering community as the experts who can effectively identify key issues related to systems, policies, and practices that impact children, families, and communities of color across this region. Those most impacted by the issues will help call out and identify the root causes, including structural and systemic factors. 150 residents will partner with King County to develop strategies, solutions, and an action plan that explicitly addresses system changes needed and eliminates barriers to access for Black, brown, and indigenous folks. These residents will also identify the criteria used to measure our collective success. Simply put, we need your help as we do the work needed to make King County the safest in this country. It will take specific commitments from all of us, community members, our young people, elders, and leaders from the sectors all across this region. Together, we will get this work done. Please click the link below and sign up for a work group. Or you can recommend a co-facilitator from community for each work group. We look forward to hearing your ideas, concerns, feedback, and solutions as we build a community where all our children can be happy, healthy, hopeful, safe, and thriving.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I'm excited because I get to sit in the seat and in the studio with Councilmember Zahilay. Yes. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure, Trey.
That was a great segment earlier with Omari too. And I think that I'm excited because, you know, there's been a lot of efforts behind the scenes around this budget. So I just want to put his tweet up real quick, all so folks can see there. It approved its next round of emergency funding in response to COVID-19. $631 million will support our residents with critical services like rental assistance, food, economic recovery, childcare, and much more. And this is something that we have to dive into because, as I was saying, so many of the solutions, and I think you said this time and time again, are really already there in community. Let's hear a little bit about what you're thinking in terms of this budget passing.
First of all, it's a really necessary budget. People are struggling all around our region. So this is one potential solution. $631 million supplemental budget. It's the largest supplemental budget in the history of King County. And largely it comes from the federal government's American Rescue Plan. So you have $255 million coming for community support, things like food and rental assistance. You have $100 million for vaccination efforts, $100 million for public health response, $67 million for economic recovery and jobs. So there's really a lot of good stuff here. The thing that I think is missing that we've talked about is this idea that we should not only be funding government-led efforts, we should also be funding community-led efforts. Because if we're thinking about the people who are struggling the most, whether we're talking about homelessness or gun violence or the pandemic, it always seems to be the same people who are struggling the most. Black people, Native American people, low-income people, people with disabilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's because of the way our systems intersect historically and currently to harm groups disproportionately. So those communities should be the ones leading the efforts because they understand the unique strengths, the unique cultures, the unique challenges of their communities. And we just got to do a lot more to put the resources behind community hands to do that work.
You know, I can't agree with you more on that. And so much of my work every day is really about that. How do we elevate these community rooted solutions so that, you know, elected officials and government departments and everybody really understands, hey, we have to be able to take a step back. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's posturing. Let me put my chest out. Let me be the one to say we did it right? I don't know exactly what it is. From your perspective now as a King County Council member, what are some of the things that you think are really allowing that same model to persist?
It's tough. I think part of it is that, you know, we need this cultural paradigm shift about how things are done. I'll give you one example. I think this health through housing initiative where King County is buying hotels and motels to provide housing for our most chronically unhoused population, I think it's an amazing, innovative, and comprehensive approach. At the same time, there are organizations out there that are already providing housing and care for their communities. You see Seattle Indian Health Board providing addiction and recovery services for Native American people in ways that are culturally appropriate for that community. You see Africatown Community Land Trust with the Cairo project providing housing for unhoused Black people, for example, in ways, again, that not only provide the shelter, but provide care for your soul in a way that, like, come back to your community. We have gardens out here for you. We have food that's appropriate for you. We have the community that you grew up in and maybe got lost from along the way, come back and reconnect. Those efforts need to have just as much support as the government-led efforts do. Because again, that's the way we're going to get out of this. That's the way we're going to heal people holistically, is to provide that kind of cultural support. So I think it's going to take a paradigm shift. I think it's going to take elected officials and community at every level standing up and saying, this is the model that we want to have equal amount of support for.
Yeah, I think that, you really come to the council with lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I have been able to witness as a council member, you've really taken that to heart. You know what I mean? I got to say, I know many people in community appreciated your amendment to the budget of the $30 million. And it's unfortunate that you didn't have the votes, yet you had so much community support.
Yeah, we had hundreds of people calling in, emailing. It was great.
So much support. And so for me, I think there's maybe a disjointed understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, people are told to utilize their voices, be a part of the process, make sure your elected officials know what you want to happen. And yet when it doesn't happen, there is this immediate, like, well, what am I doing that for?
Mm-hmm.
What is the point if it's going to persist and continue?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to elevate that because, it took some courage from you to say, look, we have to do something that is going to be very direct in terms of investment. But one of the things I think is really key to this conversation is that community-rooted solutions do come with this culturally relevant approach, like you just described. But one of the things that they also provide is to really begin to build institutions. Because when we think about this injection of funding, what happens when it's gone? If you only do programs that are there because the funding is there, then when it's gone, it's no longer there.
Absolutely.
What is really needed is an institutional approach.
Absolutely.
Where communities are being funded to build these institutions that then stay for generations to come, so that the problems can be centered on those who actually are connected with community, but understand that culturally relevant approach. What can we do in terms of making sure people understand these kinds of budgets are great? This is historic. It's a lot of money, but if it only goes towards, well, we paid your child care for, the year or for 6 months, what happens the next time that there's an economic downturn and people are then looking for solutions again if institutions aren't built?
That part of what you just said, Trey, is missing from the conversation, because right now we have a situation where community organizations come to government and they say, hey, we need support for this thing that we're doing. And government often says, you don't have the capacity to do that. Well, I don't have the capacity because I've been disinvested from, and I haven't had the chance to build that institutional knowledge like you're talking about. So it creates this cyclical pattern of, we want this. No, you don't have the capacity. We don't have the capacity because you didn't give us the capacity. And so what it would allow us to do if we did start backing community a lot more in really meaningful ways is create that generational institutional knowledge where now we have a big Black-led organization that does homelessness and housing work, and that can be the go-to for really backing it in really powerful ways. And so I think infusing that conversation is part of the solution, and calling out the hypocrisy when government or whoever it is says you don't have the capacity to do this. I don't have the capacity because I wasn't given the capacity, and nay, I was actually actively disinvested and deprived of the opportunity.
Yeah, I think too, so much of it is this constant approach around, like, you got to prove yourself, in community-led approaches in terms of budgeting in particular is this constant, you have to prove yourself. And even as people do that, even as people have proven themselves in terms of their reach, it still isn't enough at
Mhm.
times. And so I think that you're right in terms of infusing the discussion with that institutional perspective.
Yep.
One of the things that I think is really important when we're talking about budgeting, I look at the fact that, we have an Office of Immigrant and Refugee Office, the
Mhm.
department in the city, right?
Mhm.
But there's no department that says we're focusing on Black solutions and really investing in Black community, right? There's no department for that.
Mhm.
Whether you can say that, oh, maybe there's a little bit more understanding in this department, a little bit more, but there isn't one that's very specific. And
Mhm.
from your perspective, for me, as I think about this 631 million, this almost 140 million from the city of Seattle, coming into at this governmental level, and then understanding when we talk about this funding actually affecting those who have been the most impacted by something
Mhm.
like COVID, which we've seen in Black and Indigenous communities in particular.
Mhm.
There's no real office that says we understand, we're deeply rooted with these community members, we understand how to wield these funds.
Mhm.
What do you think can be done in that regard? Because there needs to probably be some government department that just focuses on that.
Yeah. I think two obstacles come to mind real quick. The first one, we always talk about this I-200 and the state ban on affirmative action and using race as criteria. That's an obstacle, not an impossible one, but one that we definitely need to focus on and have our state level champions get rid of that and create legislation or a ballot initiative to get rid of that. And I think that's in the works right now. And then the second thing is lumping all people of color together.
Yeah.
That's always been a big problem. I absolutely see value in creating cross-racial coalitions, especially groups that are harmed by white supremacy. So terms like BIPOC, I see the value, and I'm not one of these like never use that term people. At the same time, we have to understand that there are certain groups that are consistently at the bottom in terms of homelessness, in terms of gun violence, in terms of whatever criteria for well-being that you're talking about. And the two that we see the most, multi-generational Black people, African Americans, and Indigenous people. Yeah. And those go back to the foundational sins of this country. Yeah. So we need to be able to what is it called? Unpack or really highlight those two groups and say it can't just be broad equity. It can't just be broad BIPOC. We have to see which groups are struggling the most in the pandemic, in homelessness, in gun violence, in whatever you want to talk about, and shape our legislation specifically for the groups that are harmed the most.
Yeah. I think this discussion, it can really go on for a long time, because for me, I see so many different solutions that just aren't being elevated. Mm-hmm. When we talk about huge budgets, like 631 million, historic budget coming into the county level, people are going to be asking, well, how is that money going to get trickled down from the county? What kind of things do you think are already in play that may be beneficial to those who have been the most impacted?
Yeah. So I didn't want to come in here. I wasn't coming in here saying there's nothing good in this, but there's a lot of great things in this budget. We didn't get everything we wanted, but for example, in the rental assistance pot of money, which is one of the biggest pots of money in this budget and one of the most needed things in our region right now, there is a model where King County is going to work with community-based organizations to make sure rental assistance gets to where it needs to go. Because if you don't partner up with community-based organizations, what's going to happen is the people with the most access to government, the people with the most knowledge of how the system works, are going to get access to rental assistance. But when you partner up with community-based organizations that serve groups who are most harmed in this environment, those community-based organizations can go out and tap the people who really need it most and get them that. So that's one example of really good work in this budget. Another one, there's money for economic development and jobs. And that pot of money, it's in the tens of millions, is going to be done through a participatory budgeting model where we work with Black-led organizations, other organizations for people who are struggling in this economy to dictate and decide how those funds are going to be spent, which small businesses, which organizers, which parts of our region really need the most economic stimulation. And that's going to be one way of getting that done.
One of my questions for you, maybe it'll have to be close to my last one as we're coming on some time here is, you know, we saw a process come through the county level. This was like during COVID, and it was about rental assistance. And what ended up happening was, you know, the county was like, look, we need you, you know, CBOs that are on the ground, you community-based organizations that have the connections in your communities to help disperse this money. But one of the biggest barriers for smaller CBOs to participate was the fact that they had to have, you know, like $40,000 cash equity, like that they could utilize and then get reimbursed as they made rental payments. I don't know that you know any of the particulars, but I wanted to highlight that as we talk about some of those wins. We also have to talk about learning the lessons from some of the past barriers that have actually been in place when federal money kind of comes in and people are rushing to spend that money so that they can actually receive the reimbursement. There's a lot of funny things about how that money works. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
You bring up a great issue, and that is that when people are struggling and they want to get money as fast as possible, the last thing they want to do is fill out a million pieces of paperwork. Actually, the last thing they want to do is front the money and then be reimbursed, because a lot of people don't have money like that. I think one thing that's really important is that we need more of our federal partners on the ground with us, experiencing the minutia, the details of how systems actually work. Right now, our federal partners are great. They're doing their thing in DC, but we need them here on the ground to see how that works, because a lot of those requirements that you're talking about are federal requirements. When federal money comes in, there's a lot of accounting, a lot of processes that the local governments don't have control of. And I think if our federal partners were seeing how things are actually shaping up, then we could get some change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thank you so much for being here and really shedding some light on this $631 million. Clearly, you know, folks can read up about it, learn a little bit more about all these pockets of funding, but it sounds like there's some opportunities for, you know, King County government and yourselves and your King County Council to really work with community-based organizations to ensure that those who have been the most affected are really receiving this relief and rescue, as it's called, American Rescue Plan Act. It's important that folks really do get rescued and that there be an interconnected approach, a multidisciplinary approach, so to speak, so that folks that are connected are also being able to drive the solutions and get this money into community.
Yeah, absolutely, Trayana. Thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And you guys heard it here from King County Councilmember Zahilay himself. There is a huge injection coming, and there is a large opportunity for those of us who are connected on the ground to make sure our voices are heard here. You guys, I got to bring my guy, Big O, back to the studio. That means we're going to take a quick break right now. Stay tuned. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Public Health, Seattle, King County, Zero Youth Detention, along with our partners from across the South King County region, are committed to reducing violence and creating the conditions needed for our neighborhoods to be safe and free of crime. Too often, the response to crime and violence has been a piecemeal approach with a program here and a program there. When family units collapse, schools fail to educate, the economy fails to produce jobs, and crime rises, we've looked to law enforcement and punitive measures to save us. Nothing could be more wrong or further from the truth. Law enforcement can't shoulder all the burden or take the rest of us off the hook. We are acknowledging the lived experiences of Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. We are centering community as the experts who can effectively identify key issues related to systems, policies, and practices that impact children, families, and communities of color across this region. Those most impacted by the issues will help call out and identify the root causes, including structural and systemic factors. 150 residents will partner with King County to develop strategies, solutions, and an action plan that explicitly addresses system changes needed and eliminates barriers to access for Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks. These residents will also identify the criteria used to measure our collective success. Simply put, we need your help as we do the work needed to make King County the safest in this country. It will take specific commitments from all of us, community members, our young people, elders, and leaders from the sectors all across this region. Together, we will get this work done. Please click the link below and sign up for a work group. Or you can recommend a co-facilitator from community for each work group. We look forward to hearing your ideas, concerns, feedback, and solutions as we build a community where all our children can be happy, healthy, hopeful, safe, and thriving.
Chats with Trey. Chats with Trey. Chats with Trey.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday. And as you guys just saw there, Chats with Trey is airing a special airing today at 2 p.m. to make sure that we uplift the Southeast Peace Coalition and their candidate forum for mayoral candidates that's happening later on today. So please check that out with me and Twitney Vo of the Southeast Peace Coalition. Great show today. Oh, got to bring my guy back in here. I mean, to be able to have Buki Gates and Councilmember Zahilay on today, I loved it, man. I love when they come on and share their insight.
Yeah, no, definitely a good show here today. Lots of information, and people like to hear from people and learn things. That's one thing about our platform. When people come in and learn stuff. A few other notes right here. Again, Attorney General Ferguson charges 3 officers in the killing of Manuel Ellis. So, it's going to be a lot of news that's generated around that. Then also 12:30, Mayor Durkin is announcing how the city is going to use the ARPA funds. So we'll stay on time. There's a lot going on.
It's a lot, man. That ARPA funding is serious. And as we heard, Councilmember
I saw your face earlier when I was talking about ARPA.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's you only know. I mean, he's so right. When we talk about looking at these data metrics and you see that Black folks and Indigenous folks at almost every metric you can measure, they're at either the top of the rung in terms of the most affected or the bottom of the rung in terms of those who have the most, funding to be able to have the solutions that are really going to bring about some change. And so when we talk about these funds, man, it's called American Rescue Plan. I'm like, who needs to get rescued the most? Let's start there. You know what I'm saying? But hey, we got to do our work around that to make sure that, however many community solutions can be there are present.
All right. Any last word? We're over time. We're almost on time, but we're over time. Any last words before we get out of here?
For me, you guys, it's always about seeing yourself as a part of the solution. I think I just want to encourage all of you who have utilized your voices through public comment, making sure that you're posting stuff on your social media. All of that is helpful. Make sure your elected officials are aware of what you feel, because every time you guys make yourselves as a part of the solution, no matter what, if we take the win or take the loss, it is definitely noted.
All right, good stuff. Chats with Trey at 2:00. We'll definitely be live there. I'm not sure if the mayor's press conference is being carried live, but if it is, we'll pick it up. Otherwise, as usual, I want to remind you, go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity, and until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us.
facing the rising sun.